Hey guys, what's new on funding? I'll probably address that a bit later once there's more people in the room. Just I think a lot of people are going to have that same question. And then, hello from Latvia. Well, hello from Tallinn. Uh, uh, anyway, guys, if there's any more, you can good news. Well, it's not bad news. It's things are progressing. No money in the bank yet per se, but definitely some talks that are ongoing. A couple important calls coming this weekend for follow-ups. Not bad news, nothing concrete yet, but definitely lots of movement on with I don't know how many parties now, maybe 7-8 parties. Some of which we've been in discussions with now since probably February or March. But with bigger tickets, obviously these things take time. They don't necessarily close in a day. Smaller tickets can close in a week, 2 weeks, maybe sometimes take a bit longer. But larger tickets take more time. That's for sure. I don't know why I'm playing with chopsticks, but they just happen to be on my desk. So. Yeah, 5 million guy. Yeah, he's still with those liquidity issues. Unfortunately, had a call. It's a woman, not a guy, but I had a call with that person this morning. Actually, she was in consensus. She made her way to LA for some follow-up meetings, and she may have. I may have to fly to New York to meet a contact of hers that may be ready to roll with a larger ticket as well. So we'll have to see. No, my daughter's drawings. Actually, there's some right over here. Actually, maybe right there. But yeah, I didn't pollute the meme wall. Separation of family drawings and the meme wall. All right, guys. I think we get started right at the top of the hour. So another 3 minutes, we'll get rolling here. No, Bjorn, I wouldn't. It wouldn't matter the amount. Three cheers from the Hansa Sharon. Hey, Axel. Hope things are going well for you guys. I saw the message that you went to a place with great vegan food after I flew out. So appreciate that. More information on the IEO, Bjorn. Yeah. End of the month, mid-June, something like that. We'll probably release some more information. Yeah, don't worry about the monkey. Mr. Bananas, he won't be making frequent appearances. I mean, he's sitting here, but he just basically sits here and watches what goes on and gives me some feedback at the end of the show. So don't worry about him. Margin trading is close, yeah. Big update released on the sandbox over last weekend, and then debugged a bit, and now some additional updates coming. So, all right, let's get started, guys. We're at the top of the hour, right? Yep, top of the hour. Look at that. Okay, so for those of you who have never been here, which looking at the names in the room, probably nobody, but obviously people watch this after it's live. So I am Kevin Murcko, CEO here at CoinMetro, and let's get started. So this week in crypto, it's a little show we like to do. We start off with some market news. We get 10 pieces of market news that were curated over the last week by the fine ladies and gentlemen of our Telegram group. I don't even know if there's any ladies in there, to be honest. Anyway, I'll say it because it sounds nice. And then we do a little Kevin Explains Crypto. Usually there's a phrase or a word. I try to explain it in layman's terms as best I can. Then we go with a live Q&A, and we have some Reddit questions. This week we have about 8 Reddit questions, so I'll knock those out probably between questions that come in on YouTube. So let's get started. I like to try to keep this to 1 minute per news release. It is 3:01, let's say 3:02 by the time I finish this explanation. So let's try to finish this by 3:12 local time. Let's see what happens. Number 1 on a list of 10, HTC Bitcoin node phone hailed as, and I quote, one of the major developments in blockchain. So my opinion on this is it's not a major development at all. Reason being is that obviously nodes are important now. Look, we're talking about technology, right? We're talking about technology that grows and changes at an exponential rate. There are many roadblocks and things that cause that make blockchain not as efficient as current technologies. One of those is the fact that it relies on nodes, and the more nodes you have, the more consensus you have, which is obviously one of the reasons people get into blockchain in the first place, the slower it is. So developing things to make more nodes doesn't generally help in achieving mass adoption. It just simply helps in slowing down the network. So, you know, thanks HTC for slowing down the network. We appreciate it. Hats off to you guys. Next time you make a phone, try making something that actually makes things faster. We would appreciate that. Number 2 on a list of 10, within 10 days, Bitfinex raises $1 billion in an IEO. Yeah, I don't know how much I believe this one, but let's assume that it's true. It's kind of hard to lie about 1 billion, unless you own a company that prints money called Tether. Oh yeah. So let's run down the news stories here, right? So you have Tether, which is tied to Noble Bank, which is tied to Bitfinex. Noble Bank goes under. Suddenly there's 850 million missing, basically from the bank or the wallets, whatever you want to call it, from Bitfinex. Bitfinex then creates Tether in the meantime and covers up that 850 million worth of missing funds. Now they're found out, and the New York State Attorney General basically opens up an query and says, you guys are using Tether to cover up this hole, and they freeze the funds. And now they have a 1 billion IEO where the only way you can buy the tokens is through Tether. Yeah, so they're covering a hole with a hole. Awesome. Anyway, I think this is going to come tumbling down at some point. And I wouldn't want to mess with the New York State Attorney General. That's like, getting in the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime and you being a 24-pound, scrawny 12-year-old. So good luck with that. Number 3 on a list of 10, BitThumb goes global, launches trading services with multiple fiats. Yep, well, BitThumb. I think BitThumb just got their license in New York as well, their Bit license, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, multiple fiats, great. Not great time for them to join the party, I guess. None of these exchanges can exist once there's a decent amount of regulation, especially on who owns what wallet, takes the anonymity out of it. and makes everybody on a level playing field. If you don't deal with traditional money, then there is no way for people to move money in and out of the system. So it just kind of makes sense. So from obviously, when we first launched our own ICO, having fiat pairs was kind of an anomaly. I didn't expect that to last forever, and obviously it didn't. And that's a good thing, guys, because competition is actually good. And the fact that there are some decent actors in this space doing the right thing only help us in achieving our goal, right? If everybody was Binance, trust me, if there were 30 Binances out there, we'd probably be, every regulator that exists would probably be looking to shut down crypto, not actually try and help it and see if they can actually expand it and make it work. Number 4 on the list of 10, IEO trading platforms are asking for trouble. Who said this? Who said this before? Let me think. Who mentioned this before? Oh yeah, that was me. I don't like to say I told you so, but I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Look, again, I'll say it again. And I don't know what the SEC's advisor said here. Maybe he saw one of my AMAs and figured he'd make a press release. I don't know. But the point is that it used to be you do an ICO and the SEC, for example, would have to go after the issuer. So if there's 1,000 ICOs and they want to prosecute all of them, they have to go after 1,000 different individuals or companies. That's a pain in the ass, takes a lot of time, a lot of money. Average SEC investigation is 3 to 5 years. So there you go. However, if all these ICOs are now on one single platform, and the platform is acting as the custody and the agent of all these issuers, they only have to go after one person or individual or company, and that's the exchange. Makes it easier for them. It actually makes it much riskier to the industry than the ICO bubble was. This IEO setup is actually quite ridiculous. And the fact that the IEOs are no different than ICOs. There really isn't any vetting going on. We've probably already seen some scam IEOs. And we're going to see more. I don't expect it to last too long. There really needs to be a solution that not only just focuses on, we can raise some more money, but actually focuses on true vetting and actually making sure that there's some type of extra included that the regulator would kind of look at and say, wow, this is actually a good idea. And actually goes, we actually appreciate this. It's not just another way for people to get money out of unsuspecting individuals. So SEC advisor is 100% correct. And we'll see who else actually starts saying the same thing. I think many people are going to jump on this bandwagon. Number 5 on the list of 10, and we're right on schedule, it seems. Crypto crackdown in India. CoinMetro shuts down. Well, we've already talked about this a few times. India has threatened to basically outright ban cryptocurrency and crypto assets. I think they might actually do it, though I do think at some point they will reverse and then apply regulation. That is not that uncommon, especially in countries, let's say third world countries and emerging countries. Usually in first world, what will happen is that outright ban never happens, but they basically restrict it to such a point using regulation that you might as well have banned it. In emerging countries and third world countries, they'll just go ahead and ban it, then realize that banning it doesn't work. Prohibition never worked, right? It didn't work for alcohol. It has never worked for drugs. The war on drugs is the biggest farce in the history of probably humanity. It doesn't work. It never worked. And so, this won't work either. And then eventually they'll come around and find out that banning it made it worse. And they will unban it, probably with some restrictions. Number 6 on a list of 10, BitLeague launches Bitcoin term deposit, offers 9% interest. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, you can mark my words on this one. These type of businesses and services will end badly. It will end badly. They're obviously offering 9% because they're probably trying to hedge their risk, or they're just holding on to the Bitcoin, assuming we're only giving these idiots 9% interest, and in X amount of time, Bitcoin's going to go up by 50% or whatever horse shit nonsense that they have running through their brain. First of all, most of these things require regulation. Second of all, they require oversight. Third of all, most of the time you need a banking license. Fourth of all, since they're not banks, they can't actually use fractional reserve. They can only loan the amount of money they have on deposit, which means their risk is extremely higher for defaults. And when it's a term deposit. It's obviously not a loan, but I guarantee you on the other side, they're probably loaning the money out, and that's how they're paying the term notes. Either that or just holding Bitcoin, which is stupid in and of itself as far as risk goes. These type of things are going to end badly. There's lots of different, you can look at payday loans. in the US and in Europe to find out how markets, I mean, some people pay like 300% annual interest on a payday loan, right? Obviously, because there was no regulation that actually stopped this. And it caused, well, a lot of issues. And then, there's been several revamps in that regulation. But these type of things, trust me, I give it maybe 12 months, give it maybe even less than that. And you're going to see a lot of problems around both term deposits and loans in the crypto industry, 100%. Cryptopia begins liquidation after 15 million hacked. This is number 7. Yeah, well, we all saw this coming, right? They even kind of alluded to it a few times. They got hacked. They lost most of their money. They can't recover the money. They don't have a SAFU fund like our friends at Binance, unfortunately. They don't want to go down the super illegal route of let's create our own stable coin and issue a bunch of them and cover it that way, like the Bitfinex did. So yeah, I would say that at least Cryptopia is being, realistic. And they're not trying to go down further into a rabbit hole by creating, a slew of other crimes to cover up what might not be a crime, might just be bad management, but which I guess you can consider a crime in the end. Number 8 on the list of 10, Estonian consulting firm claims it's harder to get a crypto license following regulation. And they'd be right. And they'd be right because, we wrote that legislation for the most part. I think we mentioned this before, but we had a little meeting here, or a little event here right after Slush. I think that was February of this year, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves correct. And after that, after we did that, we mentioned, there's been 1,100 licenses issued. That's a major issue, and it should be corrected, and the bar needs to be raised, and the regulation shouldn't be so easy. And they sent us a draft, and we re-edited that entire draft, and that draft got voted on, and it was approved by Parliament, and it went into force May 1st. So yes, now it is harder, and it's because of us. So everybody that's upset that they're going to lose their license, that's CoinMetro. So you're welcome. Number 9 on the list of 10, New York Supreme Court grants Bitfinex motion to modify injunction. So they're acting like this is a win. This is very common. Basically, they asked the judge, look, can we continue operations while basically we have this injunction against us before there are no charges levied yet. So obviously the judge really has no choice unless the judge can see relevant danger to the public. There's nothing they can do but grant this injunction. Or modify it. So they modified it, but they modified it saying that Tether cannot loan money to Bitfinex or any other people, that they can't liquidate positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they're simply allowing them to operate as they should have been operating. If charges are filed, then this injunction basically goes away and everything's frozen. So we'll have to see what happens when and if charges are brought. Number 10 on the list of 10, Amazon wins patent for proof of work cryptographic system. So before everybody starts jumping down and saying that Amazon's going to have their own token or coin or whatever here, they're not. This system has really nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It's basically another way of devising proof of work through technology that's been around for 40 years. Everybody, when it comes to patents, big companies try to find patents anywhere they can. They may or may not even do anything with this patent. The point is that if someone uses this specific technology down the road, they have a patent, they can sue and get some money. All right, so we'll jump into real quickly here. Kevin explains crypto. So the topic this week, or the phrase this week, is velocity of money. So this one actually comes from traditional finance, believe it or not. And if I'm not mistaken, it started in the US. And the idea is to figure out the rate or the speed at which money is spent. Not just money in general, but a specific unit of money, meaning like that US dollar with serial number, blah, 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 X895. How many times does that dollar bill recirculate? Meaning how many times is it going from an individual to a merchant, back to a company, back to an individual? That's the velocity of money. When it comes to crypto, obviously that study can be much more interesting because you're able to you have traceability of a single asset, especially when you talk about non-fungible assets. You're able to see exactly how that kind of money or that asset flows through the system. So you're able to make a much more exact measurement of the velocity of money. And proponents for blockchain and crypto are obviously going to say that the velocity of money on a fully digitalized blockchain-based currency is going to be much greater. than the velocity of money. Let's say for cash, they'd be 100% correct. And even for credit, debit, and other electronic forms of money, because of the fact that it can be near instantaneous. So that's what velocity of money means. Let's jump on to live Q&A. Seems we got a few of them here. Jumping on the YouTube. Diligent Techie, hey Kevin, how long will you do these AMAs for? When will you permanently delegate to Mr. Bananas? Well, I plan on doing these as long as I can, to be honest. We may move at some point to like bi-weekly or something like that. I don't know. Mainly because, not because of me so much, but just because, well, you need to have something to say, right, every week. And we want to make sure that we actually have something to say on a permanent basis. So 2 weeks might actually be at least in the near, let's say near to midterm, maybe we revamp a bit. But I plan to do them as long as I can do. Jesus Christ, I keep hearing this Slack notification, and I turned off Slack, but guess what? I still get the notifications. How amazing is that? Usually I never get Slack notifications when I actually need them. And then when I don't want them, I get 5,000. Just amazing, to be quite honest. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to take this before I go completely nuts with this sound here. All right. Hopefully that does it. Okay. What's new regarding listings? Well, I wish I had some news on listings, guys. We literally have a team of people now assaulting LHV from all angles, and we still don't have a response. So, I guess I already kind of understood that we're not that important to LHV. But now the fact now it's really starting to kick in how unimportant we may be. Having said that, if you look at Coinbase, right? So Coinbase just launched. Coinbase is an LHV client. They use LHV for the European-based operations. The only non-major crypto asset currency, whatever that they list, is Stellar. That's it, because LHV has not given the go-ahead for any others. So it's not just us. Even to Coinbase, they literally haven't given them feedback on all these other listings that they have on other continents. So, anyway, I'm sure they're fighting as well. I know that LHV is launching a bunch of products between May and June. Lots of different things happening there. I'm sure their compliance staff is, up to their ears in getting those things launched. And again, we're definitely not primary for them or secondary. So we're going to continue to push and push and push and push. And eventually we're going to get an answer. And hopefully by that point, they've streamlined their operations so that the next answer comes much quicker. KB, I'm assuming FKD is your way of saying fucked. So I'll assume that's what it is, unless it's some token. I don't know. I don't know what token that would be. Are we still tanking? People pulling out. Tanking. What do you mean tanking? Are you talking about the token price? Tanking. I love the verbiage people use, talking about illiquid markets with thin order books, and I'm talking about Bitcoin included. That leads to price moving usually with momentum in one direction. Are people pulling out? Pulling out meaning what? Actually, we have more clients every day than clients leaving us, and we have more and more. Even though our volume is still small, the average and the mean of the volume over time is growing. The token price is increasing, and that's without us pushing out all the utility yet. Remember, this is a utility token, guys. The way that it derives its value is through its utility. The more utility it has, the more value it has. How is BizDev progressing? So BizDev is progressing on lots of different angles. There's a few actually new business developments from this last roadshow as well. That includes this, let's say, IEO style listing that we're working on. That includes some development sides from reselling some of our tech, white labeling some of our tech, bringing on tech from other entities to speed up a bit some of our launches, doing kind of joint ventures or partnerships, lots of different things actually. Not so many specific that I want to talk about just yet. But yes, that's what my focus has been on, not only fundraising, obviously, but also business development. So there's always something to talk about there. But the nature of these things is sometimes you don't, I like to be transparent, but some of these things are either unique or, we may have NDAs signed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't be, fully transparent yet, but as soon as I can be, I will be. How long after margin trading will TAM be launching? Well, TAM needs to be worked on. So the TAM project in total, we estimate 8 to 12 weeks. And it probably will be the next thing that's worked on after margin lending. So margin trading will come out shortly. Then we have margin lending. After margin lending will be TAM. So you're looking at somewhere between 2 and 3 months worth of work for TAM and probably 2 months for margin lending, which would mean somewhere between 4 and 5 months from where we sit right now. How is user growth looking? Well, user growth, obviously with this little, what everybody wants to call a bull run, and we'll see if everybody's correct over the next few weeks. It's obviously growing a bit more than it was before, though we're also seeing just as different promotions, even those small promotions that guys laugh at, like 10xcm to do KYC, actually induces 3 to 4 times as much, KYC packets that come through to us. So even things like that are helping. The piggy bank feature is starting to help a bit. The ambassador program is picking up as well. All these things take a bit of time to get some traction, but it is moving in the right direction. Do you think Blockport has a future? I haven't read their press release, to be quite honest. I've been saying this for a while now, and I say it at every presentation I give. The exchange-only business is doomed. So if you're trying to raise money for an exchange, and that's it, especially if, I don't know how focused they are on regulatory issues. I think they're Netherlands and Estonia. Netherlands doesn't even have a license. They just allow this to happen because it's unlicensed for them at this point. When you deliberately try to skirt regulation, then you try to sell to institutional investors who know about regulation, a business that clearly is going to face cost issues in the next year or two. That's near impossible. So I feel for them on that level. But I don't know. I don't know if they have a future. There's a lot of people going after the same prize. And that's why I'm so adamant about, all the things that we do. And, there's a Reddit question about this, and I'll touch on it in a bit. Like, KYC is worthless. Maybe it is worthless. And somebody said that there's no way to stop money laundering, which is ridiculous. There's definitely a way to stop money laundering. Money laundering is a human problem, meaning that it's because there's someone down the chain that basically lifts restrictions, and that's why money laundering happens. It is very, very difficult today to launder money. Even though the sums are so large that we see, compared to 20, 30 years ago through the banking system, it is difficult. The way you do it is you just find somebody in the bank that says, oh yeah, we'll onboard you, no problem, and then lowers the amount of requirements you have to pass. When someone has to do full KYC, full due diligence, screening, it's nearly impossible to launder large sums of money. It's a human issue. So, blockchain, the traceability of those assets combined with KYC and AML, traditional KYC and AML, can do a whole lot to stop money laundering because you're taking out the human element. Now, having said that, anyway, I'll touch on that one week. But anyway, having said that, I don't know. I'll come back to Blockport. I don't know. I think I'm going to try to get in touch. Oliver's been nice enough to get in touch with their CEO. Hopefully we'll be able to get on a call. We can chat about what they have, what their vision is, what they want to do, and maybe we can help each other out. Who knows? So Axel says, Woody Woodpecker, given the Slack sound effects. Thank you, Axel, for that. Asks, how fast do you think hybrid stablecoins such as Hansacoin will evolve? Well, to be honest, I wouldn't consider Hansacoin a hybrid stablecoin. The fact that it's pegged to that it's sold in euro obviously means that it doesn't have the same, let's say, the same issues when it comes to just fluctuation of price. That's something that would be pegged to another more volatile currency. But it still has its own price, and that price, once it's traded, will not be stable. So I don't think I would consider it a hybrid stablecoin. But when we talk about the benefits underneath Hansacoin or the project tokens that come outside of the Hansacoin project, obviously the tokenization of assets is something I talk a lot about. So as the market evolves, and as there's actually a market to trade these things, which today there is not, I think the tokenization, not just of real estate, not just of hard assets, mortgageable assets, et cetera, but the tokenization of all these real world assets will create a much larger financial market around the world. And it will completely change, not completely, but it will vastly change the way markets are perceived, accessed, and traded. So, I think we're still a bit away from that happening, and it's going to require a lot of work and a lot of teams that actually understand traditional finance. You can't innovate if you don't understand how the current version works, right? If you want to make, a hovering, I don't know, a hovercraft, and you don't know the basics of mechanics, you're not going to make fucking hovercraft. If you want to make a one-winged plane, and you don't know how a two-winged plane flies, well, good luck. So I do think there's a lot of people trying to do the same thing, though. Like in everything in life, 90% or so of them will fail. But yes, I do think, but without disagreeing on the hybrid stablecoin classification, I do think that Hansa Coin and tokens like it that look to actually solve issues with underlying markets have a bright future. How would you grade your technical knowledge of the crypto scene? Are you able to look at a GitHub repo, a project, and assess it? So I'm not a programmer. I have never studied programming. I've never studied code. However, back in the day, I used to write PHP, HTML, and some other basic codes, and I know a little bit of Python as well. Basically, mainly because I was involved in lots of different businesses, and well, you learn from people that know how to do these things. My technical knowledge of the crypto scene, I think, is for a CEO is high. I've met a lot of CEOs that say all the keywords but can't describe how anything works. So from that aspect, I think it's high. Looking at GitHub, well, it would depend on the GitHub repo, and it would depend on exactly what they're doing. But yes, generally speaking, if I know more or less what the topic is, meaning that if it's about finance, if they're trying to do something that's related to a field that I'm knowledgeable in, I could look at a GitHub and generally see if it's worth anything. That doesn't mean that I'd be able to critique it down to the final detail, but I think I'd be able to value its general worth. Stubble and stop. Listing on CoinMarketCap. I remember you saying a contract has been signed. Can we assume within a few weeks? Contract has been signed on both sides. Now it's up to CoinMarketCap. So I don't know what their time frame is. I don't know how that works. I'm in touch with one of the guys at CoinMarketCap, and we've shared a few messages back and forth. But I'm in the dark as to how long that actually is supposed to take. I would assume it took several weeks to get the contract to us. It was signed on both sides within a day of it being received. So let's hope that new velocity continues and keeps pace, and that we get listed soon. I know everybody loves that word. So margin trading next week. Yep, margin trading is on tap week to 10 days, I think, roughly speaking. It all depends really on how this new mega update that was released it gets through our testing. And so far, it's gone through testing pretty well. Now we're kind of moving on to GUI tweaks and things like that. Offbeat refrigerator asking what piggy bank. So there's a system now built in called the piggy bank, and basically you're rewarded for trading on the mobile app and the web app as well, and we call that the piggy bank. Are you still living on a month-to-month basis? How many months are you currently covered for? We're fundraising on a month-to-month basis. So that should answer your second part of that question as well. And that may sound scary, but this is, I don't know how many guys have been involved in startups and things like that, but I've been involved in a few, and month to month is kind of normal, unfortunately, especially before you have any revenue traction. Because first you get the guys that are like, once you get that MVP out there and you have a product, we'll be willing to put some money in. And then they say, well, it's still a little early. We'd like to see a little bit more revenue. And then once you have enough revenue, then they want to screw you and give your valuation a kick. But that's just how VC money works. That's how the industry works. Having said that, I'm personally ready to kick in money when and if needed. So it's and look, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. That saying is about as old as dirt, but that's for a reason, because it's true. If you have a will, you can make it happen. Generally, businesses fail not because they have a bad business model, not because they don't know what they're doing, not because they don't have clients. It's because they give up, and I have a hard time giving up. So I don't think I've ever really given up on anything. Sometimes I change course. If trust me, my initial foray into FX will tell you that I don't give up. I won't even tell you how much money I lost and how much time it spent, how many times I literally fell on my face as I was trying to fine tune my skills. And everybody around me told me to quit, told me it wasn't going to happen, told me blah, 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 blah. You know what? Sometimes in life, you kind of just need to raise your middle finger and tell everybody to fuck off. And I know, like, you know, a lot of people say that in different ways, shapes, and forms. Some people say it a little bit more eloquently, but literally that's what you need to do. And I'm ready and willing to do that when and if needed. Can you reveal something about the margin lending system already, especially about the risks? Risk for the lender. So the system, the general idea of the system is that there's no risk to the lender. If there is a negative balance risk, it falls on us. So that's why we are busy making sure that we have algorithms built in, as well as formulas that are, let's say, that work to the best of their ability to make sure that negative balances don't occur, regardless of the amount of fluctuation in price that we see. Yeah, so Axel saying he agrees with me. I like the word hybrid as well. Just that generally when you create a definition, it should apply. And to me, it just doesn't apply. There's no correlation between what is considered to be a stable coin, which is a peg to a fiat currency or a peg to some underlying asset, and the current iteration of the Hansa coin. So to me, that just definition doesn't fit. Is piggybacking a cheeky FX pig reference? First hint to a merger? No, I think it's just a reference to what everybody knows is where you put change. That's a piggy bank. I actually wanted to try to find some other thing to call it, but I couldn't find a train reference. Like, there is the money train. There used to be a train in New York City, the subway car. They used to carry all the money from all the, and basically it looked like it was an armored subway car, and it was full of guys with shotguns. They actually stopped using the money train, I think 2006, 7, 8, something like that, because, well, people started to realize that there was a train on the New York subway that carried a shit ton of money. So it became a target. But I didn't think that money train reference was going to make any sense to like 90% of the population. So we stuck with piggy bank. How come the total supply is 330 million? Why haven't you burned the correct amount? It's been months now. Hey, David, because to be honest, the only way we can know the exact amount, see, everybody was complaining that, you know, mint the coin. I want to withdraw it to my external wallet. Mint the coin, mint the coin, mint the coin. So we minted it and 30 people withdrew it. The only way we can really understand the exact amount, because the amounts we have are literally, some of them are off by a dozen. Like there's a blah, blah, blah million, blah, 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 100,000, blah, 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 1,000, literally off by a dozen, 200, 45. They're very close to each other. The only way we can fully understand exactly the right amount is that we need to basically have individuals vet their balances and compare them to the balances that they were promised, let's say in those emails, et cetera. And nobody really pays attention, unfortunately. So we've only been able to vet maybe a couple hundred, maybe up to 1,000, I don't know, of those 7,000 and odd contributors. Until we can do that, we don't necessarily know the exact amount, because unfortunately there's very small differences, and they're probably rounding differences. Emails only went to, I think, a certain amount of decimal places. Our database went to more decimal places. You know, when we had another system before that, it went to a different amount of decimal places. So most of these are probably rounding issues, but we don't want to pick one side or the other. We want to absolutely know. And the only way we can do that is with the help of people that actually contributed. Unfortunately, we don't have all the help we need yet. Once we do, they will be burned. Yep, agree with you, Axel. As you get older, you realize that it's not about how smart you are, how good you are, how talented you are. It's about who doesn't give up. That's it. Unfortunately, that's how life works. That's why you'll see that guy you see that guy driving a Ferrari with like the beautiful girlfriend, living in a mansion, and you're like, this guy's a fucking idiot. How did this happen? Because that guy didn't give up. That's why. You know, the smart guy that's driving the Ford Pinto that doesn't have a job gave up way too many times. How is onboarding with the new currency partner going on? It's going. So we passed compliance. Right now, they don't have APIs, so it's all manual interfaces. So we're trying to basically figure out a way for that to work. I think it's going to be a couple more weeks before we go live, mainly because, yeah, we have to figure out a way to somehow semi-automate on our side so that we don't induce so much manual work. They're also looking at APIs. We may actually help them co-develop the API. That obviously will take a bit longer, but we probably will institute those manual transactions probably in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. By the way, cheers, CoinMetro for small changes in rules to allow desktop users that use advanced exchange trades to earn XCM via piggy bank UI outside a mobile app. You're welcome, Fergus. Look, that's why we like feedback, constructive feedback. I could care less about negative. Actually, I love negative feedback when it's constructive. When it's just, you guys suck, not constructive. To be honest, even on the other side of the coin, pun intended, if you say you guys are awesome and nothing else, doesn't really help. I mean, maybe it makes us smile a bit and like, yay, somebody likes us, but it doesn't help, right? So constructive criticism, constructive praise, whatever, as long as it's constructive, we love it. And that's how changes happen. That's how we figure out what people want. And that's how we make a better product, which helps out everybody that's involved. So constructive feedback is welcomed and important. Axel asking if we can discuss CSDs and protocols a little if time allows. Sure, time allows, but I'm not sure if we might just bore people to death if I start talking about CSDs and interconnective protocols. But if somebody asked the question, I guess we can talk about it. Any travel next week, Diligent Techie? Yeah, be a little bit of travel. Riga for some meetings about a protocol actually that ties into that CSD that Axel just mentioned. And then towards the end of the week, maybe Georgia, FX Pig related business. And then next week, I think Monaco, and a week after that, Monaco and Moscow. So a little bit of travel. Who is actually testing the new features like margin, your own staff, Telegram folks? Are you looking for more testers? Both, and yes. If you want to test, give us shoot us a line, and let's see if we can get you in that test group. What the hell is a CSD? CSD is a central securities depository. It's basically a place that securities need to sit for them to be traded on exchanges. And yes, Bjorn asked an important question. So to make this as brief as possible, so we can get some Reddit questions in here. CSD. So under MiFID II, that's the directive in the EU that currently kind of dictates what all these kind of financial intermediaries, how they need to act and what they need to do, requirements, etc. Under MiFID II, if you have an MTF license, multilateral trading facility, you still can't trade anything unless it's housed at a CSD, which means if somebody has a tokenized security and you want to put that on your exchange, it needs to actually be on deposit in a CSD. That's kind of like the vault for securities. CSD basically holds the security in custody. It also tracks ownership. And that's how traditional secondary markets work. However, that doesn't exist for DLT or distributed ledger-based assets yet. Everybody talking about MTF, can't do anything without a CSD. So creating the CSD allows that asset to sit in the CSD, allows the ownership to be tracked in real time. The problem is, normally that would be enough. In normal, traditional secondary markets, exchange, CSD, done. However, that's because in normal secondary markets, traditional markets, there's a standardized protocol on how data is transmitted between those two parties or three parties. In crypto, it doesn't exist. You have exchanges that use risk APIs, well, basically, REST APIs. You have exchanges that use WebSockets. You have exchanges that use other in-house mated mumbo jumbo, Node.js, whatever. And there's no standardized way that data is transmitted. So there has to be a protocol or a bridge that takes that data, makes it, and then basically converts it like Google Translate, basically, any form of software bridge into readable, standardized data like FIX, financial information exchange data, pumps that back into the CSD. That allows the CSD to track these assets in real time, and it allows multiple exchanges to connect into where the assets sit, which creates the liquidity pools. That's one of the only reasons why tokenized assets make any sense, right? If the only thing we're going to do is mimic current traditional markets, why are we doing it? There's no point. Traditional secondary markets are illiquid. There's really no cross-border market activity. So why would we do the same thing? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So CSDs are needed and standardization is needed. So that's what the CSD and the protocol is all about. XCM is already kind of used to pay trade the fees. It's just done in a roundabout way. I was just talking to our CTO about this. Right after margin trading is launched, we're going to go ahead and do that. I think the way we're going to do it to make it easy, understandable, and visible to everyone is we're going to have basically a gas tank. And people will buy XCM and place it in their gas tank. If they're trading and their gas runs low, little pop-up will come and say, would you like to automatically refill your gas tank? And they will buy increments of XCM, kind of like how you buy prepaid credits, €1, €5, €10, €15. And that'll sit inside this gas tank, and that'll allow them to actually trade. I think that's the way we're going with it. We'll see how everybody, I don't know, views that and sees if it's the best way to do it. We could do it behind the scenes, which is basically what we've kind of halfway been doing now. The problem is it's not that visual. And in order to really affect price outside of just the actual demand it creates, it needs to be visual. Trifecta and trilogy. Yeah. So the trifecta, Axel is referring to the golden trifecta, which is MTF CSD protocol. That's the golden trifecta of regulated tokenized securities. Yes. CoinMetro directly, no. I am working with NASDAQ here in the Baltics, a law firm, as well as a tech provider that provided all the DLT tech to the Estonian government to create that CSD. And then in another project to create the protocol. So yes. It's not a CM-owned business, but CM is involved. That's for sure. I'm going to jump on Reddit, guys, while we wait for another question to pop up here, because there was a few good questions on Reddit. We have Trader Colbell. Sorry if I'm anyway. I don't know what the username is. Anyway, how would you describe the corporate culture within CoinMetro? High demand has remained in place for talent in tech, but reports show that only 20% of those in tech-related fields are female. I'm happy to see about 30% of your staff page is shown as female. Once you complete this fundraising round, how will you continue to find top talent? That ratio I think is still relevant inside the company for the most part. I think a lot of the reason why only 20% of people in tech are female is because, well, females don't try to get into tech. It's probably more than 20%. And there definitely is a hiring, many companies, I'm sure, when they have a bunch of geeky dudes that apply for a role and then a couple females, they may actually be inclined to pick the geeky dudes. That takes, unfortunately, time. That's just something I don't know what that is. That might be human nature. I don't know what it is, but there's always skews in how people view things for some reason. Same reason when you're hiring teachers. Most teachers are female, especially in elementary school. Does that mean male teachers are any less qualified? No, it just means as a parent, I'm kind of a bit more freaked out about a male teaching my young daughter than I am about a female teaching my young son. Again, I don't know why, but that's just the way the world works sometimes. So I do think that ratio is going to increase over time, especially as more females start to get involved in tech just because they're interested in it, and the talent pool grows and you start to have more of a 50-50 split, then you're going to see more females in tech roles. That's for sure. How do we find talent? Well, you do the same thing you always do. Obviously, if you have something interesting, especially on the tech side, tech people will want to work on it. So it's about creating things that they will find interesting. And obviously, you need to be able to remunerate these guys. You need to be able to give them something that other people can't. So fundraising is going to help with that. But it's also about creating an environment. I would say that the culture here is a pretty good one. I think it's pretty open. Generally, everybody's kind of communicative. We don't necessarily have, problems with, we have communication problems like every organization where sometimes, people just assume everybody knows what they're thinking in their head, things like that. But when it comes to how everybody interacts, I think the culture's pretty good, and it's only going to get better. Let's see, jumping on to YouTube again here. What do you think will happen first, 3K or 10K? Well, I talked about this yesterday on Blocks Live, actually, that usually in trading, when you see psychological big numbers of 7 passed, you usually see 10 or close to it. That means if 70, 700, 7,000, whatever, when those numbers break easily, the human psyche starts to focus on the larger round numbers. After 7, that's 10. Now, we saw that 6 and 7,000 were breezed through. We see a little bit. We're obviously playing with 8,000. I also mentioned that 7,200 was going to be a nice support, and below that, 6,200 to 6,800 would be a range. And we tend to be playing around those right now. 10 or 3, I would say we have definitely more propensity to hit 10 or close to it. 10 is going to be very hard to get through, right? So you're probably going to see rejections from 9,200 up to 9,700, right? But whether we see 10 or 3, I think we can definitely see lower lows before we see 10. Seeing 3, though, would signify to me we're going to see a lower low than we saw before. Remember, we're still in a retracement from 20K. This is a 20K down to 3K, then back up to 8. That's roughly a 34, 30, 33, 34, 35% retracement. Fibonacci goes to 38.2. That would lead us to about 92, 9,300 if my in my head math kind of functions today on a Friday. So that's a key area to look at. Remember, though, that we're not in a bull market, guys. In order to be in a bull market, we need to break highs. It means we need to retrace 100%. We need to hit 20K. That would officially mean we're in a bull market. We could be in a bull range. We could be in a slight bull territory. We could be seeing bullish momentum. We're still in a bear market by quite leaps and bounds. So you need to. So I do think we have more of a. We probably would see 10 before 3. But if we see 3, we will probably see lower lows, because that simply means that what this has been from 3 to 8 is simply a retracement of a bearish market, and we will go lower, not higher. What's the ETA on creating the CSD? All depends. Depends if we can umbrella licensing from NASDAQ. It depends. It could be 3 months. It could be 12 months. It depends on a lot of things. I'm hoping for the latter. I've been trading on the advanced trading platform of Binance in September 2017, and now I started to use CoinMetro, and I find it less easy than Binance. Are you still going to change some things? Well, I can tell you, you probably find it less easy because you've been trading on the other one for a year. Look, MT4 in Forex, right? Everybody says they hate it. It's not that easy to use, especially for someone who just uses it right out of the box. But now when they try to use another product that's definitely easier to use, like C-Trader, for example, they say it's more difficult because they can't find things. Why? Because they're used to the other one. It's like when you have a car and then you buy a new car. It takes you a bit to figure it out. If you could be more specific, that would definitely be great feedback, and we'd be able to make. Yes, and there will constantly be changes. It's ridiculous to think you can create a piece of software or a platform and never update it. It's going to be updated on a very, very frequent basis for the life of the product. So the feedback we get is imperative to make sure that those updates actually make sense to people. So if you can give us some more feedback on exactly why you think it's not that easy to use, we can address those. And you know, making the advanced platform better for beginners is kind of an oxymoron. The advanced platform isn't for beginners. That's why it's called the advanced platform. Diligent Techie, how's it going with Blocks Live? Do you enjoy it? Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's going well. They've already asked me to. They said they wish I was in Malta so I could actually be live on the set and come more often. I don't think I'll be going to Malta, so unfortunately that's not going to happen. But I think they're doing okay. Their viewership is increasing. They're kind of expanding on their topics and things like that. So I think overall they're going well. There's obviously some competition out there. But yeah, I think they're getting better at what they do, which is a sign of maturity, and that's a good thing. Was consensus and fake news around eBay accepting crypto the cause for the big bull trap this week? I don't think so, Fergus. Consensus probably played a role in just the overall bullishness of the market. That's for sure. It kind of always when you do a hype-based market and you have a place where people can release a lot of hype, a lot of people wait for Malta for consensus to release press releases. And they do that for a reason, because a lot of eyes are on them. So that definitely fueled the fire a bit, that's for sure. But no, look, you had consolidation and accumulation for a year and a half at lower prices. At some point, the market has to decide where it wants to go. And it decided to go up a bit, but it's still, like I said, it decided to retrace. Now, as I say all the time, when you have a bullish market, you need to find buyers. Buyers don't like to buy at high prices. The market needs to retrace for the buyers to actually come to the market. Same thing, though, goes for bearish markets, right? People sold a lot from 20,000 on down. Do you think they really wanted to sell at 3? Do you think they're much more comfortable selling at 8? Everybody gets clouded. Judgments gets clouded when you're a guy that holds Bitcoin and the market goes up. Well, it's bullish. Obviously, it's a bull market. Bull market's going to go up. It's bullish. It's bullish. But if you're selling and the market goes down, you're a bears. Market sucks. Bitcoin sucks. It's going to go to 0. Whatever. So people always get their judgment clouded, right? You need to step back and really look to figure out what's going on. We have massive amounts of money going into infrastructure. We have massive amounts of companies, legitimate, huge companies, putting money not only into blockchain, but also looking at how they can actually get value out of crypto assets. You have more and more hedge funds coming on board. You have people like Fidelity trying to get into the retail market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All those things are great, but they generally didn't affect price. But somehow consensus and eBay news does. That tells me that there's actually not that many real buyers in the market, meaning like real legitimate big time buyers. Fidelity isn't in there buying. Everybody that has this cloud above them saying institutional money's coming in, it's not. It's not. And it's not yet. It's going into research and development, that's for sure. It's not buying Bitcoin. So yeah, just be careful. That's what I would say. I would say be careful. Don't get married to a trade. Just because you made a bit of money, don't get married to it. Wait and be flexible enough to get the fuck out. You can always get back in a trade. Just because you lost 10, 20, 30% on a move because you got out too soon is meaningless. Small losses should be your friend and wins should be your friend. Take those profits. You can always get back in the market, right? There's always another trade. You can make it easy to use, but with advanced features though. Yeah, you can make a platform easy to use with quote unquote advanced features. Depends on what those advanced features are. The advanced feature is just something that makes it easier to use, meaning like click this button to get into these 15 cryptocurrencies. Yes, but charting and margin trading, if you dumb them down too much, they don't work. So those type of things can be more difficult to create an ease of use pattern. Anything other than margin trading to look forward this month? Well, hopefully some fundraising news, and then outside of fundraising news and margin, probably some news about XCM utility. Once margin trading's out of the woods here, probably some business development news maybe towards the end of the month. So yeah, there's always something cooking, guys. There's always something cooking. The reason why we don't try to get the hype market around us right now is that for me, I want to create a bit more stability in the underlying product. I want to get a bit more of our products out there. And then you're going to start to see PR releases from us too, like everybody else does, to really start to push some demand. I just think it's a bit too soon for that. Yeah, use stop losses. Yeah, everybody that says, we don't use a stop loss on this system because we found it doesn't work that well using them. Yeah, well, there's very few systems in the world that can work without a stop loss. And FXPig actually created one of those. Salvatore, our CTO, created one of those. It's one of the only I've ever seen in my life that can actually function without a legitimate stop loss. But for traders, yeah, mind your stops. And we don't have a marketing budget, but myself, Mr. Kevin Murcko, has some budget. But having said that, you need to make sure that these things are timed correctly. It's not just about pushing out hype. It's about pushing out hype for that when people come here, they stay. And I think we're still slightly, margin trading is going to help a lot. Adding a bit of utility to XCM will help immensely. And bringing new eyes through these IEO style platform, et cetera, will help. And that at that point, we are ready to really start to drive some hype cycles. I found a lot of decent sized sticks and we've been poking, but unfortunately not hard enough apparently. I'm gonna get to 2 or 3 of these Reddit questions, guys, before I gotta sign off, because there was a few that were good in here. I'm gonna get to this one first. Milhouse Van Houten. So he says, "Hola, Senor Kevin." So there you go. There's a lot of FUD on certain communities regarding CoinMetro. Maybe you can quickly make some statements regarding the following points so that there's a definitive timestamp to quote. Sure. So starting at 3:53 local time here. So CM is selling XCM. We haven't sold XCM now for at least weeks. I'm not sure the exact time frame, but at least in weeks we haven't been selling XCM, mainly because it went outside of the price that we're willing to sell at. Why are we selling XCM? Well, guys, you have 2 choices, right? The choices are either that we liquidate a bit of XCM to keep operations functional so that we can continue to develop, continue to push out products and actually make this thing a success, or we don't. Maybe price goes a bit higher for a bit, and then you're going to see, maybe something like these other guys had to do today, a PR release that basically says game over, and then the price goes to 0. So while there may be a bit of sell pressure from us at times, we definitely try to mitigate it as much as possible. when we were selling XCM. And it's for a good reason. It's not so that, we can, I don't know, spend that money frivolously. It's to pay our employees, it's to keep the lights on, and it's to make sure that developers keep developing. CM has no funds left. We have funds left month to month. We've been saying that for quite some time. We've been month to month since January, guys. It's nothing new. And we're looking for bigger tickets, and we will find those bigger tickets. Anybody, most of these comments come from people that have no experience in actually going through this type of ordeal, whether that be the startup phase or actually bringing a business from nothing into profitability. And they look at these very rare stories of your Binance story or your story of these companies that get lucky, right place, right time, and they get big quick. That does not happen a lot. And it is definitely, there's no correlation to rapid success and quality. There's no correlation. Sometimes they can be quality products. Sometimes they're complete shit. The thing is usually about timing. So, and you can't, and unfortunately, unless you have a time machine, timing is something almost impossible to time. You just get lucky. Everything is too slow with this will kill CM. Not everything is slow. We've definitely sped up on a lot of things. People, and I'm going to combine this with compliance is worthless and KYC is worthless. I already talked about this at another point in the show, but it's not worthless at all. And it's required, guys. Both the G20, the FAFT, every single major international organization is now pushing for more KYC and AML and crypto in general. And that includes wallet providers, exchanges, etc. We're experienced in doing this, and we've taken the time now and to, slow down our own business, to slow us down from making revenue, to make sure that we do this in the most streamlined, legal, and compliant way possible. And just like we did, these other market players will need to do this at some point. The problem is we'll already have it done. Their problem, not ours, is that we'll already have done it. And they will have to go through databases of millions of clients and clean them. And this will cause major, major issues internally. So while you may think it's slow now, just think, the tortoise and the hare, the old fable about, the fast rabbit running around and laughing at the turtle. He was slow and who won the race? Well, the turtle did, because the rabbit simply got sidetracked because, he was so far ahead, he might as well just stop running and take a nice little nap, and he lost. And that's essentially what's going to happen in crypto. It happens all the time in regulated markets. It happens in pharmaceuticals. It happens in finance. It happens in telecommunications. When you lack the vision on the regulatory side, you end up losing. XCM will never go up because of all the points above and below. Well, it's already gone up, and it will continue to go up. It's a utility token. Adding utility drives demand. And as we add utility, we will drive demand systematically. You will remove the floor, and that's the end of CM. We will remove the floor. I will note that the floor has never been touched. So while the floor has been there, it has never been touched. I'll repeat that again. It's never been touched. The upcoming August ICO token dump is the end for CM. Ridiculous, because the amount of tokens that have actually been sold based on the amount that were even purchased in the initial token sale at higher prices is a very small percentage. And that very small percentage will continue, even those that are released in August. There will be some selling pressure. Sure, there will be. But that selling pressure, if it induces downside to the token price, will induce buying pressure. We've already seen that happen. Again, the floor was never reached. So even though buying pressure was raising or rising, or selling pressure, buying pressure also rised. And more like CoinMetro. Yeah. Look, what other company, crypto or otherwise, has the CEO in a Telegram chat almost every day, has weekly AMAs, has a guy that'll answer pretty much every question that's thrown at them? And sometimes we like to say soon, maybe more than sometimes. But because you know what? There's so many things going on that to pinpoint a date can be difficult. And I'm okay with saying that, right? We could put a date on paper. Great. It doesn't change anything, guys. It really doesn't. So at the end of the day, we're getting a lot of things done. We get a lot of grief for things that are, late or that were late in the past. We've hit a lot of deadlines in the last few months, a lot of them. And I don't, but you don't see anybody on 4chan talking about that, right? So anyway, point is, guys, that all these things mostly come from people that have no experience doing any of this, that they see these very rare stories of instant success that almost never happen. that are mainly due to timing and nothing else. And they think because we didn't do that, that somehow, we're not as good as the competition. But I think they need to look a little deeper into exactly what we're doing. If they understood what we're doing, they would clearly understand that we're looking to really change this market. The way that we're going about KYC, AML, even the CSD, this protocol, the fact that we talk to regulators is really about opening the door to markets that are, in the trillions of dollars, in the trillions of euros. That takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. The crypto market as it is today will change, guys. It's not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to sell shit coins on an exchange, get a bunch of volume, charge $1 million for listings. That's all going to change. And we're creating a business model that can actually exist when this happens, when the change happens. Most other market players aren't. So anyway, time will tell. But sometimes you need to listen to the old bald guys in the room. Right? You'll learn that, though. People will learn that over time. One day you'll be old and bald, and you'll figure it out. Yeah, I did have 4. I said 4channel, though. I didn't say 4chan. I went a little non-cool on it just to put a spin on it. And yeah, Reddit questions. So answered a couple Reddit questions. I really got to run, guys, because I got Blocks Live coming up, and I have a few things I need to do before that happens. So we will save, let's see, question 2, 3, 5, 2, 3, and 5 for next week. So we'll make sure those are on next week's Reddit questions so I can address them then. None of them are really time specific, so I guess won't be an issue. Have a good weekend, guys. As always, don't look at price. Well, maybe this weekend you want to look at price. Shit, you might just want to leave your phone open 24/7 and stare at the price. I don't know. But buy some XCM. Keep the questions coming in. Thanks for all the back and forth this week. It was great. I really like doing these things. And somebody asked the question when I would stop. I won't. Yeah, I'll keep punching. Keep doing what I need to do. You guys keep doing what you need to do. See some friends, see some family, get some downtime. Have a nice weekend. See you guys next week. See you guys in Telegram probably over the weekend. And there you go. Nothing more to say. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.